My dear friends in Jesus Christ, in today's Gospel, we could see clearly the love of Jesus towards his disciples. Even when Jesus knew that Judas would betray him, he did not abandon him, but loved him as his disciple. We hear in today's Gospel that Judas, after receiving the morsel of bread, immediately went out, and it was night. We can understand that Judas denied the call of Jesus and goes from light to darkness. By moving away from light to darkness, he allowed the darkness to overcome him completely. Satan entered into the life of Judas. We also hear of another betrayal, the betrayal of Peter. Peter's betrayal was not that of Judas, but it was unplanned and unexpected. It was a weakness of faith, weakness of prayer, and weakness of courage. We also commit sin and fall prey to Satan and his temptations. We can have two kinds of falling into sin. Do we, like Judas, embrace evil and Satan completely and let him take over our hearts and minds? Or, like Peter, acknowledge our weaknesses and then move forward with a resolve to become a better servants of God in words and deeds? We need to understand that even if the temptation to any sin should last all our lives, it cannot make us displeasing to God, as long as we take no pleasure into it. As long as we take no pleasure in it, we cannot be guilty of it. Every one of us undergo temptations. Jesus was tempted. St. James and John were tempted to gain power. Judas was tempted for money. St. Paul endured the temptations of the flesh, and many saints had temptations, but they never abandoned God. God was not displeased by their temptations, but rather He was glorified. We all need to take conscious effort to avoid the temptations of the flesh. As St. Paul says in Romans 7 verse 15, "It is no longer I myself who do it, but the sin living in me." St. Francis de Sales and Father Mermier were two great examples for this. They were tempted in all the way possible, but with the spirit of optimism, hope, freedom, and confidence in God's love, they were prompted to please God by avoiding temptation. St. Francis de Sales never gave up, even though he had to face lots of temptations in his priestly ministry. The same spirit was also found in the life of Father Mermier. By proclaiming, "I want mission," he risked his life for the sake of God's work. Let us take these two great men as our model to be at the side of Jesus. Let us not, like Judas, allow ourselves to be covered completely by Satan. Rather, like St. Peter, understand our weakness and turn back to God in all simplicity and love.